We are continuing to reform and invest even more resources in our national defense.
A major international forum in Taipei sees scholars and officials discuss Taiwan's national security, with some calling for cross-strait peace.
All they're asking for is the right to be left in peace as a free, democratic country, not bullied or coerced.
Several U.S. lawmakers have sent a letter urging Washington to reverse course and allow Taiwan President Lai Ching-te to transit through the U.S. Taiwan is still waiting on a backorder of U.S. military equipment worth about $20 billion, causing headaches for the military.
和让整个部队能够达到完全备战的状态，这就必须要尽早获得。
Plus, another 4 local officials in Taiwan may be stripped of their office due to still holding Chinese citizenship, but they insist it's the Chinese side that's to blame. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. A major security forum in Taipei has brought together officials, experts, and scholars from 10 countries, including former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who is visiting the country for the first time. Alan Liu was there and has this report.
Here in Taipei, officials and experts from around the world are gathering to discuss Taiwan's security and resilience. This comes as China and Russia are hosting their joint naval drills in the region. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te opened the 2025 Ketagalan Forum by highlighting the country's ongoing efforts to strengthen its national defense.
We are continuing to reform and invest even more resources in our national defense. Next year's defense budget will reach a target of over 3% of GDP to boost Taiwan's self-defense capabilities.
The annual forum, now in its 4th year, is emphasizing China's ramping up of gray zone warfare. Beijing has increasingly been using coercive tactics against Taiwan by cutting off undersea cables near Taiwan, sending jets and vessels into the country's air defense identification zone, and launching disinformation campaigns. Because gray zone warfare is often an incremental process, experts say democracy facing these kind of threats may not realize the danger right away.
How do we know when something is systematic and when the instigator behind it is a hostile state? We may not know until it reaches a very high level of intensity, and by then it may be too late.
In light of these threats, former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson called for greater international support for Taiwan.
All they're asking for is the right to be left in peace as a free, democratic country and not bullied or coerced.
A message shared by many participants at this year's forum. Amid growing pressure from authoritarian regimes, democracies across the Indo-Pacific are looking at how to step up efforts to boost deterrence and push back against coercion. Alex Chen and Alan Liu for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's premier aerobatics team, the Thunder Tigers, is getting an upgrade.
永鹰高教机的飞行的操作特性，那会承袭 AT3相关的这个甲案的科目，然后再去做演进，因为我们这个整个飞行操作特性已经改善很多。
The team will now start flying the Air Force's more advanced T-5 Brave Eagle jet trainers. The planes will replace the older AT-3 Zixiang aircraft, which they've been flying since 1988. The Thunder Tigers are expected to perform with the Brave Eagles on Taiwan's National Day in October. Each year during Taiwan's annual Hanguang exercises, the military shows off a variety of weapon systems it would use in the event of a Chinese invasion. Many of those come from the United States, but the U.S. is behind on its weapons deliveries, which could spell trouble for Taiwan's defense. Taiwan is upping its arsenal, part of efforts to defend itself from a potential invasion by China. One big piece of the country's defense strategy is buying advanced weapons from the U.S., like these M1A2 Abrams tanks, whose firepower was recently showcased in northern Taiwan. But those tanks are an outlier in arms purchased from the U.S. That's because there is a backlog of around $20 billion in other weapons that Taiwan has ordered but is still waiting to get. This backlog includes a $100 million discrepancy revealed in a report on Taiwan's 2024 general budget of undelivered weapons it has already paid for. It's causing a headache for Taiwan, not just financially, but also militarily.
如何让整个部队能够达到完全备战的状态，这就必须要尽早获得，这样子国军才能够按照既定的任务规划去执行。
Taiwan's defense ministry says that it's asked the U.S. to return roughly $90 million and urged defense officials there to speed up deliveries. It's not so much a matter of money as it is strengthening Taiwan's defense capabilities to deter an attack from China.
比如说，陆军的海马式多管火箭啊，或是说空军的 F-16V 交机，或是说反舰飞弹因为这些武器系统的打击力能够够得到对方那这部分的装备呢，我们很可能要请美方先行交易。
The U.S. has other international defense obligations beyond Taiwan, and it prioritizes its own defense over that of others. So, if delivery delays persist, Taiwan's military may have to start thinking about looking elsewhere for its weapons needs. Scott Huang and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. 3 current and former TSMC employees have been charged with threatening national security for allegedly trying to access classified chip technology data. The tech giant found the suspects had tried to see files on its most advanced 2-nanometer chips. Prosecutors are now investigating the breach and whether data was leaked overseas or to other companies. Taiwan is the only country with this unique chip expertise, and highly specialized technologies are protected by the National Security Act. Several U.S. lawmakers have asked the Trump administration to allow Taiwan President Lai Ching-te to transit through the U.S. 3 House Democrats made the request in a letter to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They say the reported decision by the Trump administration to block Lai's stopovers sends a dangerous signal to Beijing. The Financial Times reported last week that the U.S. denied Lai permission to transit through New York after China raised objections. In light of these potential changes in Washington's policy on Taiwan stopovers in the U.S., our reporter Cadence Quaranta spoke with Alex Gray, former chief of staff of the U.S. National Security Council during Trump's first term.
I want to zoom in on one issue that's gotten a lot of attention lately, which is a trip that Taiwan President Lai Ching-te was reportedly supposed to take to visit Latin American allies with reportedly stopovers in the U.S. along the way. Last week, many international media outlets reported that that trip was called off after the U.S. denied Lai the ability to stop over in New York on the way there over objections from China. Based on your experience working in the White House, I'm wondering how likely this is that happened and what your thoughts are on this apparent decision.
Yeah, well, look, we should look, one, historically, that President Trump did more than any American president to strengthen the high-level exchanges between the U.S. and Taiwan. What I would say is, a lot of this is reporting, anonymous reporting that's playing out in the media. It's a gift to the Chinese Communist Party to have this type of he said, she said speculation. We don't know the details. I would encourage my Taiwanese friends not to focus unduly on reported trip cancellations and these types of details. We play right into the hands of the CCP when we overly analyze these things and we allow them to use this as propaganda to try and divide the United States from Taiwan.
Given that Taiwanese presidents have made stopovers in the U.S. before, including during Trump's first term, some experts have suggested this could indicate a change or a softening of U.S. policy towards China, especially given reports that Taiwan's defense minister was also supposed to go to the U.S. in June for meetings with high-level Pentagon officials, but that was also postponed because of objections from China. So I'm wondering what you think of this. Do you think Trump is warming up or softening his policies toward China?
Look, President Trump is the first president in American history to declare unambiguously that our foremost national security threat is the PRC. I think when his national security strategy comes out later this year, it's going to reaffirm and even deepen his public commitment to making the organizing principle of U.S. national security policy the China threat. I have no reason to think, and I'm very confident, that the president is not changing his understanding and his approach to China at the strategic level. In terms of how the United States is positioned toward China, I think you're going to see the type of continuity from the president's first term, where we continue to harden ourselves and work with our partners to harden themselves against this extraordinary threat that we face from the CCP.
A central goal for Taiwan right now in the U.S. Taiwan relationship is to achieve a favorable tariff rate. Having worked with Trump and in the Trump administration, I'm wondering, what do you think it will take for Taiwan to make a reasonable deal with Trump on tariffs? And do you expect that the deal will require large amounts of investment from Taiwan or other compromises?
One, investment's important, and we've seen Korea, Japan commit to make substantial investments, and I do think the president wants to use these negotiations partially to get that type of investment in the United States. But there's a more, I think from the Taiwanese perspective, there's a truth here that may not be comfortable, but we need to acknowledge it, which is the president has a fundamentally different view of the world trading system than has prevailed for a long time. I think that this is less about specific things Taiwan can do than the fact that the American people want to reindustrialize. We want a higher tariff in order to promote reindustrialization in the United States. Yes, the president uses these negotiations as leverage and bargaining, but up to a certain point. I think my main point here is that the president at a certain level is going to stop negotiating, and there's going to be a very high tariff, and that's going to stay for a long time. And so I think we should focus.
That was Alex Gray, former Chief of Staff of the U.S. National Security Council. 4 more local officials could be stripped of their positions after an audit found they hold Chinese nationality. The government has defended the move, but the officials involved say they're deeply integrated in their communities and that China won't let them renounce their citizenship. John Van Trieste has more.
Until last Friday, Deng Wanhua was the village warden of Xuetian in eastern Taiwan. But she's one of 5 local officials removed or set for removal after an audit found they hold Chinese citizenship. Deng is angry and plans to appeal. She's been in Taiwan nearly 30 years, setting down roots and lately caring for her terminally ill Taiwanese husband. And she says there's no way to renounce her Chinese nationality, even if she tried. China claims Taiwan and doesn't recognize a Taiwanese citizenship.
因为你一旦开了，就表示你承认台湾是独立的了。谁会给你开这个东西啊？如果他今天我这个搞成了，就表示陆配以后都不能参政了。
It's a frustration a fellow China-born local official in Taipei shares.
我们已经努力过了，我今年2月要去办，大陆不给办啊！你现在就是硬性的要叫我们去注销国籍，那我们就是有通天的本领也办不下来。
But the Interior Ministry says it's a matter of ensuring loyalty to the country and preventing conflicts of interest. TaiwanPlus reached out to the Interior Ministry for comment, but did not receive a reply. Most of the cities where these officials have posts are still coming up with an action plan.
有关里长国籍疑案，现能由松山区公所查明中，但对于查询国籍有其困难，会依个案情形研议处理方式。
市府已经启动相关调查程序，其中里长减负放弃国籍的文件上有一些认定疑义，已函请内政部厘清中。
But another local official involved, this one from Taoyuan, says they've all earned their positions legitimately.
我们当初来，我们是以两岸人民关系条例啊，那我们也是正常的选举。我除了等待还是等待，目前谢谢大家的关心。
And so, as local governments decide what to do, a controversy getting at the heart of citizenship and what it means to be Taiwanese continues to unfold. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, floodwaters destroy homes and roads across Taiwan, leaving some communities completely stranded.
How does Taiwan stay on the forefront of innovation in a world of uncertain tariffs, wars, and shifting geopolitics? Get answers and more, from award-winning programs to exclusive Mandarin dramas. Download the TaiwanPlus app to any device today. No ads, no bias, just facts. TaiwanPlus.
For more stories from Taiwan and Osaka, download the TaiwanPlus app.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee, we make the news. Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.
For more news from Taiwan and around the world, download our app or check out the TaiwanPlus website. Ready? Go.
Ready?
Just jump.
Okay, jump!
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Heavy rain has battered southern Taiwan for more than a week, unleashing devastating floods and landslides that have left at least 5 people dead. Entire communities are cut off, homes have collapsed, and now, as the water recedes, the focus is turning to recovery. Chris Gorin reports.
A family watches helplessly as part of their home collapses. Its foundation washed out by floodwaters after more than a week of devastating rains across southern Taiwan. Flooding across the south has left several people dead and dozens injured or missing. Accumulated rainfall in Kaohsiung City reached over 2,800 millimeters, nearly surpassing the previous record during 2009's Typhoon Morakot. The water and subsequent landslides caused nearly $3 million in agricultural damage and washed out many roads. Entire communities, such as the indigenous villages in Kaohsiung's Namasha district, are now completely cut off, with local officials asking for urgent government assistance. The region's infrastructure is struggling to keep up. During a visit to the disaster area, Taiwan's premier said a recovery command center set up for Jiayi and Tainan counties could accelerate government-funded reconstruction efforts.
The
Central Weather Administration has withdrawn a heavy rain advisory for Tuesday, so the region may get a much-needed respite. But the South now faces another challenge: recovery. Leon Lien and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Beijing has lifted its highest level rain alert after heavy downpours forced the evacuation of over 82,000 people. Officials are urging residents to stay vigilant despite the improving weather. Last week, severe floods killed more than 40 people in suburban areas of Beijing. Meanwhile, torrential rain in Hong Kong has crippled public infrastructure with schools, courts, and hospitals closing and over 100 flights delayed. It follows a weekend of flash flooding in neighboring Guangdong province that killed 5 people. Taiwan's Coast Guard faced off against a Chinese Coast Guard ship near the contested Pratas Island.
呼叫中国海警船3102尽速离开我方水域，否则我船将依法采取必要行动。
The standoff lasted about 22 hours, with the two vessels at one point coming within 1 nautical mile of each other. The Chinese ship disabled its identification system in what officials here consider to be a test of Taiwan's response measures. In recent months, Chinese Coast Guard ships have repeatedly entered restricted waters around Taiwan's offshore islands. Analysts say the military needs to boost surveillance against Chinese incursions.
因为我们现在陆战队，它目前的角色比较都是在本岛进行这样做。那未来是不是说仍然要让它保留或恢复这样子的一个海上的这样子一个突击的能力？
Pratas Island, also known as Dongsha Island, is claimed by both Taiwan and China, but is administered by Taiwan. The Netherlands has pledged nearly $580 million to buy American weapons for Ukraine. It's the first NATO member to do so under a new weapons financing plan. Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans made the announcement in a social media post, saying the package would include parts and missiles for U.S. Patriot defense systems. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed the decision. The Netherlands' purchase would be made through the NATO Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List, or PEARL initiative, and the U.S. ambassador to the bloc says more like it are coming.
The Dutch are just the first of many. You're going to see a series of announcements in the coming weeks. You know, when we announced this facility that allowed our NATO allies to buy U.S. equipment and provide that to Ukraine for their defense, you know, we had a lot of our allies raise their hand and line up. A lot of them are coming together in groups to pool their money and their resources together.
PEARL was launched after U.S. President Donald Trump said last month that the U.S. would supply weapons to Ukraine and that they'd be paid for by European allies. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as they seek to strengthen bilateral relations. Ahead of the meeting in New Delhi, Marcos said he hopes to deepen maritime ties and increase cooperation in defense, pharmaceuticals, and agriculture. Their talks follow the Indian and Philippine navies conducting their first ever joint exercises in the disputed South China Sea on Sunday. Over the past decade, 30 firefighters have died in the line of duty. To better protect these first responders, robots are being deployed across the country. Our reporter Sandy Chi looks at how these robots help keep first responders safe in hazardous situations.
When the alarms sound, firefighters spring into action, racing against time and sometimes into burning buildings, putting their lives at risk to keep the public safe. But now new technology is helping take on some of the most dangerous tasks.
可以代替我们就是来从事一些比方说像一个近距离必须要救援的一个灾害现场，我们可以先利用我们的救灾机器人，先到达现场，先去了解状况，然后以方便我们后续看说要调派什么样的救灾器材，或是要怎么样编组我们的救灾人员，这都有助于我们在救灾的过程中会比较完善。
These robots entered service in 2023. The same year, 4 first responders died in a factory fire in southern Taiwan.
我们就开始在考虑，是不是因为应该要加一些救灾机器人进来做辅助，可以造成消防人员尽量零伤害、零死亡，有效的帮助我们消防人员进行前部的勘察动作。
The robots have sensors to spot risky situations before firefighters enter.
像我身后的这一台，它有搭配 热显像仪，还有搭配气体探测器，那它可以先行的先去到达现场，然后来面对高温以及易爆的现场，或者是有毒或是缺氧的环境，让现场的资讯能够先 pass 到我们的控制台，然后来回报给救灾指挥官，可以大大的来提升我们的救灾的安全保障以及效率。
Earlier this year, a chemical fire in Chiayi destroyed a firefighting robot, a loss that in different circumstances could have been a firefighter's life. And fire officials say Taiwan's many factories and makeshift buildings are hazards that make it dangerous for firefighters.
铁皮屋火灾最危险就是它的热效能啊，热辐射。那只要一发生火灾，铁皮就会坍塌啊。这时候如果有消防救灾机器人的话，它对我们来说是一个很大的帮助。
And now, more than 140 of these robots are working across Taiwan, most of them in New Taipei and Kaohsiung, where many factories pose a fire hazard. Still, these robots have limitations.
以这台电动驱动的机器人来说，基本上只要是蓄电池，大家都知道就是会有续航力的问题，所以后续未来可以朝向说可能是电量、电力的扩充，又或者是像我们充电时间的缩短，这都有助于说后续我们救灾机器人可以再次的投入到我们的救灾现场。
加工水，加工水。In the years since their introduction, these robots have proven their usefulness. And with improvements on the way, Taiwan's first responders will soon have even better tools as they work to put out fires and save lives. Chris Ma, Patrick Chen, Alec McDonald, and Sani Chi for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you to France, where it's becoming more popular for women to compete in woodcutting. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.